Okay, today's topic is nutritional requirement of cells. Cells may be prokaryotic cells or eukaryotic cells. And what are their culture media? So, types of culture media, physical and environmental requirements for the microbial growth. These three chapter we will discuss today in the class. Uh, let mute everybody. So, uh, let's start with the introduction of nutritional requirements of the cell. Every organism must find in its environments all of the substances required for energy generation and cellular biosynthesis. The chemical and elements of this environment that are utilized for bacterial growth are referred to as nutrients or nutritional requirements. Many bacteria can be grown in the laboratory in culture media, which are designed to provide all the essential nutrients in solution for bacterial growth. Bacteria that are symbiont or obligate intracellular parasite of other cells, usually eukaryotic cells, are not uh, unexpectedly difficult to grow outside of their natural host cells. Whether the microbes is a mutalist or parasites, the host cell must ultimately provide the nutritional requirements of its resident. Many bacteria can be identified in the environment by inspection or using genetic techniques, but attempts to isolate and grow them in artificial culture has been unsuccessful. This, in part, is the basis of estimate that we may know less than 1% of the prokaryotes that exist in our nature. So let's talk about the what are the major elements or major requirement of all kinds of cells. At an elementary level, the nutritional requirement of the bacterium such as E. coli reveals by the cell's element composition, which consist of carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, sulfur, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, magnesium, irons. These are all major elements which is required in the culture medium. And somehow trace of the zinc, cobalt, copper, molybdenum, these elements are found in the form of water, inorganic ions, small molecules and macromolecules which serve either a structural or functional role in the cells. The general physiological function of the elements are in the next slide. These are. So let's talk about the one by one these major elements such as carbon. Carbon in the cell composition, it occupy the 50% dry weight. The source of carbon is organic compound or carbon dioxide from the environment. And what are the function of carbon? in the cell. This is the main constituent of the cellular material, which is also is a backbone of a cell. Then come to the oxygen. This occupies 20% of the dry weight. The source of oxygen is water, organic compounds, carbon dioxide, and oxygen. The constituent of the cell materials and cell water, oxygen is an electron receptor in aerobic respiration. Then come to the nitrogen. Please mute your mobile. Everyone. Mohit.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Then nitrogen. Nitrogen occupies the 14% of the total cell weight by weight by weight. This the source of nitrogen for the cells or any organisms is ammonia, organic compounds, and free nitrogen. What are the major role of the nitrogen? Nitrogen is constituent of amino acids, nucleic acids, nucleotides, and coenzymes. Then come to the hydrogen. Hydrogen, 8%. Source of hydrogen is water, organic compounds, and hydrogen found in the our environment. This is the main constituent of organic compounds and cell water. Likewise, there are many compounds like iron. If we say the iron 0.2% composition of the cell occupy with the iron. This obtained from the iron salts, component of cytochromes, and certain non-heme or heme protein, and also act as a cofactor for some enzymatic reactions. Now, we cannot escape with the micronutrients or trace elements. So micronutrients or trace elements are those elements which are found in very less amount and which is not essential for the microorganisms to produce or to uptake from the environment, especially in the medium. So these magnesium, molybdenum, cobalt ignores the occurrence of trace element in bacterial nutrition. Trace elements are metal ions required by the certain cells in such a small amount that it is difficult to detect or measure them, and it is not necessary to add them to the culture media as a nutrient. Trace elements are required in such small amounts that they are present as contaminants of the water or other media components. As metal ion, the trace elements usually act as cofactor for the essential enzymatic reactions in the cells. One organism's trace element may be another required element and vice versa, but the usual cations that qualify as a trace element in bacterial nutrition are magnesium, cobalt, zinc, copper, and molybdenum. Now come to the carbon and energy sources for bacteria. So let's talk about the what are the nutritional requirement and what are the requirement for the carbon, hydrogen, oxygen and other elements. In order to grow in nature or in the laboratory, a bacteria must have an energy sources, a source of carbon and other required nutrients, and a permissive range of physical conditions such as oxygen concentration, temperature, and pH. Sometimes bacteria are referred to as individuals or group based on their patterns of growth under various chemical, nutritional, or physical conditions. For example, phototrophs. Phototrophs are organisms that use light as a energy source. Anaerobes. Anaerobes are organisms that grow without oxygen. Thermophiles. Thermophiles are organisms that grow at high temperatures. So here we used three terms that are phototrophs, phototrophs that use the light as an energy source. Anaerobes are organisms that grow without oxygen. Thermophiles are organisms that grow at high temperature. All living organisms require a source of energy. Organisms that use radiant energy, which is light, are called phototrophs. Organisms that use oxidized and organic form of carbon are called heterotrophs or chemoheterotrophs. Organisms that oxidize organic compounds are called lithotrophs. The carbon requirement of organisms must be met by organic carbon, a chemical compound with a carbon-hydrogen bond, or by carbon dioxide. Means the carbon requirement of organism must be met by the organic carbons, that is chemical compound, or by the carbon dioxide. Organisms that use the organic carbon are heterotrophs, and organisms that use carbon dioxide as a sole source of carbon for the growth are called autotrophs. So here are the example. Major nutritional types of prokaryotes are photoautotrophs. Photoautotrophs. Here the source of energy is light, as the name indicated, photo, and then carbon source. Autotrophs means carbon dioxide. If they use the carbon source from the organic compound, this will be heterotrophs. If they use energy source as a light, then it is the phototrophs. So photoautotrophs means energy source as a light and carbon source as a carbon dioxide. For example, cyanobacteria, some purple and green bacteria uses the light as a carbon energy sources and carbon dioxide as a carbon source. The second group is photoheterotrophs. Photoheterotrophs, energy source as light and carbon source organic compound. Heterotrophs, organic compounds. So the example is some purple and green bacteria, also the kind of photoheterotrophs. Now, chemoautotrophs. Chemoautotrophs, energy source here, inorganic compounds like carbon dioxide, hydrogen, ammonia, and dihydrogen sulfide, and carbon source as a carbon dioxide. A few bacteria and many archaea uses the energy source as a inorganic compounds and carbon source carbon dioxides. Now, chemoheterotrophs. Chemoheterotrophs. Chemoheterotrophs, in that energy source is inorganic chemicals, and heterotrophs means they utilize the organic compound as a source of carbon. So most of the bacteria and some common archaea is chemoheterotrophs. Now, almost all eukaryotes are either photoautotrophs, for example, plants and algae, or heterotrophic. Heterotrophic like animals, protozoa, and fungi. Lithotrophy is unique to prokaryotes and photoheterotrophy common in the purple and green bacteria. Occurs only in a very few eukaryotic algae. Phototrophy has not been found in the archaea except for the non-photosynthetic light-driven ATP synthesis in the extreme halophiles. Halophiles means those bacteria which grown on the halogen-based environment. Now, come to the growth factor. This simplified schemes for use of carbon, either organic carbons or carbon dioxide, ignores the possibilities that an organism, whether it is an autotrophs or a heterotrophs, may require a small amount of certain organic compounds for growth because they are essential substances that the organisms is unable to synthesize from the available nutrients. Such compounds are called growth factor. So, what are the growth factor? Growth factor are required in a small amount by the cells because they fulfill a specific role of biosynthesis. The need for the growth factor results from either a blocked or missing metabolic pathway in the cells. Growth factor are organized into the three categories. Number one, the purines and pyrimidines. Purines are pyrimidines required for the synthesis of nucleic acid like DNA or RNA. Number two, amino acids. Amino acids are required for the synthesis of proteins. Then number three is vitamins. Vitamins needed as coenzymes and functional group for the certain kind of enzymes. So some bacteria like E. coli do not require any growth factor. They can synthesize all essential purines, pyrimidines, amino acids, and vitamins starting with their carbon sources as a part of their own intermediary metabolisms. Certain other bacteria like lactobacillus require purines, pyrimidines, vitamins, and several amino acids in order to grow. These compounds must be added in advance to the culture media that are used to grow these bacteria. The growth factor are not metabolized directly as a source of carbon or energy. Rather, they are assimilated by the cells to fulfill their specific role in the metabolisms. mutant strains of bacteria that require some growth factor not needed by the wild type or parents strain are referred as auxotrophs. Thus, a strain of E. coli that require the amino acids tryptophan in order to grow would be called as a tryptophan auxotroph. Okay. So, some of the common requirement in the nutrition of the certain bacteria like para-aminobenzoic acid, PABA. This is essential for the precursor of biosynthesis of the folic acid and transfer of one carbon unit and require for the synthesis of thymines, purines, bases, serines, methionine, and pantothenic acids. Likewise, biotins. Biotins is also required for the biosynthesis reactions that require the carbon dioxide fixations. Riboflavin. Riboflavin is required for the oxidoreduction reactions. Vitamin K. Vitamin K is essential for the electron transport processes. Vitamin B6, pyridoxines. This is for the transamination, deamination, decarboxylation, and reassimilation of the amino acids. So these are all the nutritional requirement for the cells, which is required for the growth of these bacteria. So come to the, these are all must have in the culture media. Okay. Now come to the culture media for the growth of bacteria. For any bacterium to be propagated for any purpose, it is necessary to provide the appropriate biochemicals and biophysical environment. The biochemicals nutritional environment is made available as a culture medium, and depending upon the special needs of the particular bacteria as well as particular investigator, a large variety and types of culture media have been developed with the different purpose and uses. Culture media are employed in the isolations and maintenance of pure culture of bacteria and are also used for the identification of bacteria according to their biochemical or their biophysical properties. The manner in which bacteria are cultivated and the purpose of culture media varies widely. Liquid media are used for the growth of pure batch culture, while solidifying media are used widely for the isolation of pure cultures, for estimating the viable bacterial populations, and a variety of other purposes. The usual gelling agent for the solid or semi-solid medium is agar, a hydrocolloid derivatives from the red algae, which is found from the red algae. Agar is used because of its unique physical properties, that is, it melt at 100 degrees Celsius and remain liquid until cooled to 40 degrees Celsius. Below 40 degrees Celsius, it becomes and it made the gels or solid medium. And because it cannot be metabolized by the most of the bacteria, hence as a medium component, it is relatively inert. It simplifies holds the gel nutrients that are aqueous solutions. So come to the types of culture media. There are some types of media which is classified according to their physical nature, chemical nature, and the functional types of. If we talk about the physical nature, it may be in the liquid form or in the solid form. As I told you earlier, then chemical composition that defined are complex, and the functional, either it may be differential media or selective media or enriched media. So culture media may be classified into the several categories depending on their compositions on the use. Yes, sir. A chemically defined synthetic mediums is one in which the exact chemical composition is known. That is the chemically defined medium, in which the exact chemical composition is known. A complex or undefined medium is one in which the exact chemical constituent of the medium is not known. Defined media are usually composed of pure biochemicals of the self. Complex media usually contains the complex material of the biological organisms such as blood or milk or yeast or extract of the beef extract, the exact chemical composition of which is obviously undetermined. A defined medium is a minimal medium. If it is provided only the exact nutrient, including any growth factor, needed by the organisms of growth, the use of defined minimal media require the investigator to know the exact nutritional requirements of the organisms in the questions. Chemically defined media are of those value in studying the minimal nutritional requirement of the microorganisms. For enrichment media or culture, and for the variety of wide variety of physiological studies, complex media usually provide the full range of growth factor that may be required by the organism, so they may be more handily used to cultivate the unknown bacteria or bacteria those nutritional requirement is complex. For example, organisms that require a lot of growth factors, known or unknown, complex media is usually used for the cultivation of the bacterium pathogens and other fastidious bacteria. Most pathogenic bacteria of animals, which have adapted themselves to growth in the animal tissue require the complex media for their growth. Blood, serum, and tissue extract are frequently added to the culture media for the cultivation of the pathogens. Even so far, few fastidious pathogens such as Tremonella pallidum, the agent of syphilis, and Mycobacterium leprae can cause of leprosy. Artificial culture media and condition have not been established. The fact that the ability to do basic research on these pathogens and the disease that they cause. Other concept employed in the construction of the culture media are the principle of selection and enrichment. Means selection and enrichment. The selective mediums is one which has a components added to its which will inhibit or prevent the growth of certain types of species of bacteria and or to promote the growth of desired species. One can also adjust the physical condition of the culture mediums such as pH and temperature to render it selective for the organisms that are able to grow under these certain conditions. A culture media may also be differential medium if allow the investigator to distinguish between the different type of bacteria based on some observable traits in their patterns of growth on the medium, thus a selective differential media for the isolation of the Streptophyllococcus aureus. The most common bacterial pathogens of the humans contains a very high concentration of salts that inhibit most other bacteria. Mannitol as a source of fermentable sugars and pH indicators dyes from the clinical specimen. Only Staph will grow Staphylococcus aureus is differentiated from the Staphylococcus epidermis on the basis of its ability to ferment the mannitols. Mannitol fermenting colonies, Staphylococcus aureus, which is produce acid which react with the indicators dye, forming the colored halo around the colonies. Mannitol not fermenters use other non-fermentive substance in the medium for the growth of do not form a halo around its colonies. An enrichment medium employs a slightly different twist. An enrichment mediums contains some components that permit the growth of a specific type of species of bacteriums, usually because they alone can utilize the components from the environments. However, an enrichment medium may have the selective features. An enrichment medium for non-symbiotic nitrogen fixing bacteria omits a source of added nitrogens to the medium. The medium is inoculated with a potential source of these bacteria and incubated in the atmosphere, whether in the only source of nitrogen available is nitrogen. A selective enrichment mediums for the growth of stream halophiles contains nearly 25% salts, that is NaCl, which is required by the stream halophiles and which inhibit the growth of all other prokaryotes. Now, there are some nutritional medium which is required for the culture media. Now, come to the functional type of media. These are the enriched media, differential media, selective media, which is already I described you earlier. Now come to the physical and environmental requirement for the microbial growth. Though prokaryotes exist in nature under an enormous range of physical conditions such as oxygen concentration, hydrogen ion concentration, like pH and temperature, the exclusion limit of life on the planet with regard to environmental parameters are always set by some microorganisms, most often the prokaryotes and frequently and archaeans. Applied to all microorganisms is a vocabulary of terms used to describe their growth, ability to grow within a range of physical conditions. A thermophile grows in high temperatures, an acidophile grown at a low pH, an osmophile grow at a high osmotic concentration solutions, and so on. This nomenclature will be employed in this section to describe the response to the prokaryotes to a variety of physical conditions. So, come to the effect of oxygen. I think too. The effect of oxygen. Oxygen is a universal component of the cell and is always provided in the large amount of by the water. However, prokaryotes display a wide variety of responses to molecular oxygen O2. The obligate aerobes require O2, oxygen, for their growth. They use oxygen as a final electron acceptor in aerobic respiration. Then obligate anaerobes, occasionally called uh, anaerophobes, do not need or use the oxygen as a nutrient. In fact, oxygen is a toxic substance which either kill or inhibit their growth. Obligate anaerobes prokaryotes may live by the fermentation, anaerobes respiration, bacterial photosynthesis, or the novel process of methanogenesis. Facultative anaerobes are the organisms that can switch between the aerobics and anaerobics types of metabolisms. Under anaerobic conditions, where no oxygen, they grow by the fermentation or anaerobic respiration, but in the presence of oxygen, they switch to the aerobic respiration. They have dual kind of actions. Aerotolerant anaerobes are the bacteria with an exclusively anaerobic fermentative types of metabolism, but they are intensively to the presence of oxygen. They live by the fermentation alone. There are not oxygen is present in their environment. The response of an organism to oxygen in its environment depend upon the occurrence of and distribution of various enzymes which react with the oxygen and various oxygen radiant that are invariably generated by the cells in the presence of oxygen. All cells contains enzyme capable of reacting with the oxygens. For example, oxidation of flavoproteins by the oxygen invariably result in the formation of H2O2 peroxidase as one major product, and small quantities of and even more toxic free radicals, superoxide or O2, also chlorophylls and other pigments in the cells can react with oxygen in the presence of light and generate the singlet oxygen. In aerobes and aerotolerant anaerobes, the potential for the lethal accumulation of the superoxide is prevented by the enzyme superoxide dismutase. All organisms which can live in the presence of oxygen, whether or not they utilize in their metabolism, contain the superoxide dismutase. Nearly all the organisms contain in the enzymes catalase, which composes H2O2. All photosynthetic organisms are protected from the lethal oxidation of the light oxygens by their possession of the chorotolroid pigments, which physically react with the singlet oxygen gradient and lower it to its non-toxic grounds. Okay, so come to the another physical environmental requirement, that is the pH. What are the effect of pH on the growth? The pH or hydrogen ion concentration of natural environments varies from about 0.05 in the most acidic soil to about 10.5 in the most alkaline lakes. Appreciating that pH is measured on the logarithmic scale, the hydrogen ion concentration of the natural environments varies over a billion folds, and some microorganisms are living at the extremes as well as every point between the extremes. Most free living prokaryotes can grow over a range of pH 3 units. About a thousands fold changes in pH, the range of pH over which an organisms grow is defined by the three cardinal point. The minimum pH, below which organisms cannot grow; the maximum pH, above which the organisms cannot grow; and the optimum pH at which organisms grow best. So there are three cardinal points. What are the three cardinal points? The minimum pH, maximum pH, and optimum pH. So here you can see the minimum pH, optimum pH, and maximum pH. So the minimum, what are the minimum pH? Below which the organisms cannot grow. What are the maximum pH? Above which the organisms cannot grow. And what are the optimum pH? Optimum pH at which the organisms can grow the best. For most bacteria, there is an orderly increase in, sorry, okay? For most bacteria, there is an orderly increase in growth rate between the minimum and optimum, and the corresponding orderly decrease in growth rate between the optimum and the maximum pH, reflecting the general effect of the changing on the rate of enzymatic reaction. You can see in the this graph, the growth rate of the acidophiles is on the pH from 1 to 4.5, neutrophiles 5.5 to 8.8, and alkalophiles from the 7.5 to 11.5. So the microorganisms which grow at an optimum pH as well below the neutrality, means pH 7, are called acidophiles. Okay, and those which grow best at the neutral pH, means 7, are called neutrophiles, and those that grow best under the alkaline conditions are called alkaliphiles. Obligate acidophiles such as Thiobacillus species actually required a low pH for the growth, since their membranes dissolve and the cells lysis at the neutrally at the pH 7. Several genera of the Archaea, including the Sulfobase and Thermoplasma, are obligate acidophiles. Among eukaryotes, many fungi are acidophiles, but the champions of the growth at the low pH is the eukaryotic algae, cynodiums, which can grow at the pH 0. In the construction and use of culture media, one must always consider the optimum pH for the growth of desired organisms and incorporate the buffer in order to maintain the pH of the medium. Many pathogenic bacteria exhibit a relatively narrow range of pH over which they will grow. Most diagnostic media for the growth of identification of human pathogens have a pH near to the 7. The third point is effect of temperature on the growth. The microorganisms have been found growing in the virtually all environments, whether there is liquid water, regardless of its temperature. In 1966, Professor Thomas, then at the Indiana University, made an amazing discovery in the boiling hot springs of Yellowstone National Park that bacteria were not just surviving there, they were growing and flourishing. The Brooks discovery of the thermophiles bacteria, archaea, and other extremophiles in Yellowstones is summarized for the general public in an article at this website. We will share you. A particular microorganisms will exhibit a range of temperature over which it can grow, defined by 3 cardinal points in the same manner as a pH. Considering the total span of temperature where liquid water exists, the prokaryotes may be subdivided into the several subclasses on the basis of one or other of their cardinal points of the growth. For example, organisms with an optimum temperature near 37 degrees Celsius, the body temperature of the warm boiled animals, are called mesophiles. Organisms with an optimum temperature between about 45 degree and 70 degrees Celsius are thermophiles. Some archaea with an optimal temperature of 80 degree or higher and the maximum temperature as high as 115 degrees Celsius are now referred to the extreme thermophiles or hyperthermophiles. The cold-loving organisms are psychrophiles, defined by their ability to grow at 0 degrees Celsius. A variety of psychrophiles, which usually has an optimum temperature of 10 to 15 degrees Celsius. The optimum temperature in the mesophile range nearer room temperature. Psychotrophs are the scores of food storage in the refrigerator, since they are invariably brought in from their mesophiles habits and continue to grow in the slower at 2 degree than at the 25 degree. Think how fast milk spoil on the counter taps versus in the refrigerators. Okay, so psychrophiles bacteria are adapted to their cool environment by having largely unsaturated fatty acid in their plasma membrane. Some psychrophiles, particularly those from the Anatrix, have been found to contain polyunsaturated fatty acids, which generally do not occur in the prokaryotes. The degree of unsaturation of the fatty acid correlates with its solidification temperature or thermophile transition stage. I mean, the temperature at which the liquid melted or solidified. Unsaturated fatty acid remained liquid at low temperature. Okay, so there are thermophiles are adapted to temperature above 60 degrees Celsius in a variety of ways. Often thermophiles have a high degree of G plus C content in their DNA, such that the melting temperature of the DNA, the temperature at which the strand of the double helix separate, is at least as high as the organism's maximum thiamines for the growth. But this is not always in case of, and the correlation is far from perfect. So thermophiles DNA must be stabilized in this cell by other means. The membrane fatty acid and thermophilic bacteria are highly saturated, allowing their membranes to remain stable and functional at high temperatures. The membrane of hyperthermophiles, virtually all of which are archaea, are not composed of fatty acids but of repeating subunit of the C5 compounds, phytones, or branches of saturated isopropanoids substances, which contributes heavily to the ability to these bacteria to live in the superheated environments. The structural proteins, the ribosomal proteins, are transport proteins, permeases, and enzymes of the thermophiles and the hyperthermophiles are very heat stable compared as compared with the mesophiles counterparts. The proteins are modified in the number of ways, including the dehydration and thought slightly change in the primary structures, which account for their thermal stabilities. Okay, so the last point is water ability. The water is a solvent in which the molecules of life are dissolved, and the availability of the water is therefore a critical factor that affects the growth of all cells. The availability of water for a cell dependent upon its presence in this atmosphere or its presence of solution or a substance's water activity. The water activity AW of pure water is 1, means 100% water. Water activity in the water, water activity is affected by the presence of solute such as salt or sugars that are dissolved in the water. The higher the solute concentration of substances, the lower is the water activity, and vice versa. Microorganisms lives over a range of water activity from 1 to 0.7. The water activity of human blood is 0.99. Seawater 0.98. Maple syrup 0.9. Great Salt Lake 0.75. Water activity in agriculture soil range between the 0.9 to 1. Okay, so have you cleared the water activity? Water activity, the solid dissolved in the water is not measured by the water activity. If we are drinking the pure water, okay, mineral water, in that case water activity is 1. So the only common solute in nature that occur over a wide concentration range in the salt NaCl, and some microorganisms are named based on their growth responses to salt. Microorganisms that require some NaCl for the growth are halophiles. Mild halophiles require 1 to 6% of salt. Moderate halophiles require the 6 to 15% of salt. Extreme halophiles that require 15 to 30% NaCl for the growth are found among the archaea. Bacteria that are able to grow at moderate salt concentration they grow best in the absence of NaCl are called halotolerant. Although halophiles are the osmophiles and halotolerant organisms are osmotolerant, the terms osmophiles is usually reserved for the organisms that are able to live in the environments high in the sugar. Organisms which live in the dry environment made dry by the lack of water are called xerophiles. So the concept of lowering water activity in order to prevent the bacterial growth is the basis of preservation of food by drying in sunlight or by the evaporation or by adding the high concentration of salt or sugar. Here are the some of the example of the bacteria for the limiting water activity for the growth of certain prokaryotes like Pseudomonas had the minimum growth 0.91 water activity. So the today's class is over and the question session is open for all. If you have anyone have the query about the today's topic, you can ask the question. Okay, I am opening everyone.